You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. Shea Dixon joins us every Tuesday on 3 The Bengal Tigers. Shady, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing good. Before we get into the recruiting stuff, any big picture takeaways from Sunday night's loss to USC?
I mean, I think that, look, and you can be doom and gloom, and I get it. I think a lot of that's probably the 5 straight losses and season openers and feeling like you had so many chances to win that game and didn't put them away. But I think as the dust settles on it, at least, I rewatched the game a couple times because it's kind of not the same when you watch it from the press box or whatever. You don't kind of see everything. And I actually left the game thinking that a lot of spots that I worried about, D-line, front seven, would they wreak havoc all this? I mean, they were all over Miller Moss. And what would life without Jayden Daniels be like? Those look pretty good to me. And you've got a wide receiver one in Lacey. You've got a kid in Anderson who's healthy and looks confident. You got a kick returner, punt returner, and Xavier Thomas. So all is not lost. I agree with Brian Kelly that, look, put your head down 1 week at a time. South Carolina doesn't look as formidable as they might have before the season, and you get an 11 o'clock game there. I think it's still lining up to where LSU can go into Ole Miss, and that'd be a massive game. And then to make the playoffs, Matt? You feel like 10-2 gets you in? Well, then you need to win 2 of 3 versus that kind of OU, Bama, Ole Miss stretch. And I guess you can lump A&M in there as well. At the end of the season, I'm not sure how they'll look, but if I'm an LSU fan, I'm not overly worried right now. It's just one of those things. And I know Brian Kelly won't say it, but I will. It's not an excuse, no. Four plays, probably. The 2 forced fumbles, Matt, and then the 2 almost batted down passes, interceptions. One of those goes LSU's way, and things could have changed, and they didn't. And it's just kind of the break sometimes, and it kind of felt like USC got all 4 of them. And, hey, shout out to number 10, that whole catch of the year candidate kid. I think upon rewatch, that other catch was more clutch for me, the one that set him up for either a field goal or just to go-ahead score. But he made that catch with one hand, left-handed, and then still held it through Jordan Gilbert targeting. So, sometimes you just have to say kudos to the team who got the breaks and made couple more plays than you did in a game that I think most people would say is pretty evenly matched teams.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Look, you were tied at 20 and with 8 seconds left in the game. So it's what it is, man.
Matt, if you would you have taken this bet had I told you, or what would have been your reaction if I would have told you that this new LSU defense held a Lincoln Riley offense to no points in the first quarter, 10 points at halftime, and then a couple 3-and-outs and a field goal in the third quarter? And you would have said 13 points in 3 quarters. You got to be kidding me. I'll be all over that one. So,
it's one of the disappointing parts of the game for sure. It was a game that certainly was there to be had, but you don't come up with it. So, I mean, Shea, we've seen it now the last 2 years. They lose the opener, they get better, they'll get better, they'll win a lot of games. Just a matter of how far behind the 8 ball have you put yourself with this loss. But I guess that'll play out in time. He's on Twitter at Shea Dixon on 3 The Bengal Tiger. Of course, we use this time to talk recruiting. Let's check in on some of the big name guys in this class. Bryce Underwood, his season is underway. Some notable changes in what they're letting him do up there in Michigan?
Yeah, last year they had a running back at Belleville who ultimately went to Michigan and played linebacker. He was a 4-star linebacker, but carried the ball, and he's since transferred out. But a D1 football player, so they were comfortable. Look, they had back-to-back state titles, and they went to the state title last year. So they were running the football with him. This year, they said, hey, look, we're going to run it with Bryce some. I mean, Bryce has got the best arm in the country, and he is a year younger. He turned 17 2 weeks ago, and he's a senior in high school, so he's a year younger than everybody else, still has the best arm. And we have him number 1, and we're still like, look, we haven't even seen his legs. He goes out in 2 games, and it's just been unbelievable. This past weekend, he went for 177 and 2, and that's with a 50-yard touchdown run called back. So his movement, I mean, if you go, we've got it, the Bengal Tiger, a lot of the clips, but Charles Power, our national director of scouting and rankings, has tweeted out a bunch, and you can find him on Twitter, Charles Power. But it's a lot like Jayden, where you look at him and it's like he's just gliding. Is he even trying right now? Like, it's just the top end speed and burst make it look like everybody else is 3 steps slower. So it's pretty evident now you're not only getting the best arm in the country, you're getting a 6'4" kid who will play at 225 in college and be able to run at any point you need him to, which is what Jayden was for this team.
Certainly something that LSU missed on Saturday, a dynamic they don't have presently, but is certainly on the way. What about the cornerbacks? I mean, DJ Pickett is someone that you would love to see as part of this class stick. It certainly seems like he will, and a guy's going to have an opportunity to play early.
Yeah, look, and all 3 of their corners had. I was just talking to Charles Fowler before we went on with you, which made me think of this. He said he had watched most all the kids over the 3 games who had played so far, and Louisiana obviously hadn't started yet, and Texas just got going. But he said, man, LSU's class, top to bottom, every kid I watched looked pretty solid. And then he leads off his piece with Bryce Underwood maybe being the best performer of anyone out there, and then quickly said, hey, look, help's on the way at corner. He said DJ Pickett's playing both sides of the ball. He looked good. He said Cade Phillips looked unbelievable in week 1 for his game, and we're higher on him than anyone else. I think he ends up being a top 5 corner when it's all said and done. And we're in Jamboree season, but boy, the buzz out of Ruston and Aiden Anding after what he did this past weekend with some picks, some touchdowns, and pass breakups, you name it. And those 3 complement each other well. So bring those 3 in, and we've already seen, look, just some better play from guys like Stamps developing, and toss P.J. Woodland in there. You know Corey Raymond can develop. So if you've got this young group, couple them with these guys coming in, I think that you won't have to rely much longer on guys just being vets. So I think you're going to get back to you recruit at a high level and you develop at a high level, and I think that's what we're going to see from Stamps, Woodland, and then into this group.
Shea, what about this weekend being the first home game? Is this a weekend where you would expect it to be a pretty heavy recruiting weekend for the Tigers?
You know, it's not typically, in large part because it's week 1, right? Louisiana starts this week. So most of the kids are focused on high school football, and then a lot of your commits are border state kids that they could drive in as well, but they've already said, hey, look, I'm coming to these 3 or 4 games, and Nichols doesn't always make that list. So usually weekends like this are going to be more underclassmen. You know, you'll see a number of kids come in that, will kind of show up to every other game, or, your local kids, your Catholic high and you high kids who come to every game. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of the bulk of it. But for Brian Kelly and them, I think they're fine with that. I think they just want to focus on football this weekend and get into 1-1. But they'll have quickly enough. That Ole Miss game ain't too far in the distance, and that's the same time they're celebrating 100 years of Tiger Stadium and bringing all these players back. I would expect that's going to be one of their biggest visit weekends of the year, which is fine for LSU, right? Lay low for a bit, get some wins, get your footing right, and then have a big game atmosphere against Ole Miss.
Shea, before you go, who are you keeping an eye on that could be next to pop in this recruiting class?
It's still Buddy Mathis coming out of Georgia, defensive tackle. They've got a trio of them committed, but that he's expected to be the 4th guy that Bo Davis gets. And he initially told us he was going to do it this past weekend at his mom's birthday, and then he didn't get his edit in time, and then he said, hey, look, I'll hold off and I'll do it next week. And I love linemen and I love D linemen because they're the anti, and not that there's anything wrong with it, right? That you and I do this for a living. We're on radio and social media and all that, but that's also the wide receivers and corners. They're out there with us too. The O-line and D-line could care less if anyone ever knew where they were committed to, or if they ever tweeted about it or did an interview. So his silence is just his personality. I still think that whenever he decides to go public, that LSU's sitting in a pretty good spot to add another defensive tackle.
He's just, come on, Hayes Fawcett, what you doing, man? What's he got? He's got like 10,000 of these to do, these edits to do, which is just putting him a little bit of a backlog?
I would guess the answer to that's yes, absolutely.
Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, on Twitter at Shea Dixon. I always appreciate it, Shea. Thanks for the time, man.
All right, Matt. I'll talk to you next week.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.